In one corner of my yard, there is a small patch that rarely sees direct sun. The fence blocks the morning light. A tree covers the afternoon. For years, I thought nothing useful would grow there. One spring, I planted lettuce in that deep shade. The plants grew slowly. They looked a little thin at first. Not as wide as the ones in full sun. Meanwhile, the lettuce in my sunny bed grew fast. Very fast. Within a few weeks, those sunny plants shot up tall. They sent up flower stalks. The leaves turned bitter. The shaded lettuce did something different. It stayed low. It stayed calm. Week after week, it quietly filled out. The harvest from that shaded patch surprised even experienced growers who saw it. After watching lettuce for many seasons, I noticed a pattern. The plants in strong sun rushed. The ones in shade settled in. If your garden feels too shady, you're not doing anything wrong. Before explaining why this worked, it helps to understand what full shade really means in a garden. When we hear full shade, we often picture deep darkness. But most garden shade is not complete darkness. It is softer light. Light that bounces off walls. Light that filters through leaves. Light that shifts through the day. A north-facing wall may never get direct sun, but it still receives bright daylight. A patio under a tree may have moving patches of light. That is called dappled light. Even a spot behind a fence can receive reflected light from nearby surfaces. Many gardeners believe their space is darker than it truly is. We see no direct sun and assume nothing will grow. But plants do not measure light the way we do. They respond to overall brightness and temperature. One helpful habit is to simply watch your space for a day. Notice where light falls in the morning. Notice what changes at noon. Notice how the evening light moves across the ground. You do not need tools. Just quiet observation. Often, a place that feels too shady still offers enough light for cool season crops. This leads to a common belief that has been passed down for years. The idea that lettuce needs full sun to grow well. It sounds reasonable. Many vegetables do enjoy strong sun. Tomatoes and peppers need it. Squash and beans stretch toward it. But lettuce is different. Lettuce is a cool season crop. It comes from regions with mild weather. It prefers gentle conditions. It does not love heat. When lettuce sits in strong sun, especially in late spring or early summer, the soil warms quickly. The leaves heat up. The plant feels stress. Its natural response is to hurry. It sends up a tall stem. It prepares to flower. This process is called bolting. Once lettuce bolts, the leaves change. They often taste bitter. The texture becomes tougher. The harvest window becomes short. So the idea that more sun equals better lettuce is not always true. In fact, for lettuce, too much sun can shorten its life. The real change happens when we understand this simple idea. Shade does not stop lettuce from growing. It slows stress. When a plant is under less heat pressure, it does not rush. It keeps producing leaves instead of flowers. The soil stays cooler. Moisture stays in the ground longer. The roots work steadily instead of struggling. Growth may appear slower at first. The leaves may take a little longer to reach full size. But something important is happening beneath the surface. The plant is building without panic. Slower growth can mean better flavor. The leaves stay tender. The bitterness that comes from heat does not develop as quickly. Instead of a quick burst and then decline, you get a steady harvest over many weeks. This challenges the idea that fast growth is always better. In many parts of life, we have learned to value speed. In the garden, speed often comes from stress. When lettuce feels safe, it stays productive longer. In my shaded corner, I noticed clear differences at harvest time. The leaves were a deeper green. Not dark from strain, but rich and full. They felt soft in my hands. Almost silky. When I tasted them, there was no sharp bitterness. Just a clean, gentle flavor. The kind that does not need heavy dressing to hide anything. The sunny lettuce had grown larger at first. It looked impressive early on. But once the heat arrived, it changed quickly. The stems stretched tall. The leaves turned smaller and sharper in taste. The harvest ended sooner than I expected. In the shaded bed, I picked out leaves week after week. The center kept growing. I did not have to rush. I did not have to harvest everything at once. There was no dramatic difference in size. It was not twice as big. It was simply steadier. The picking window lasted longer. The quality stayed consistent. That steady pattern is what surprised me most. Now, this does not mean shade works the same in every climate. Where you live matters. In warm regions, where spring quickly turns into hot weather, shade can be a real advantage. Afternoon shade protects lettuce from intense heat. Even a few hours out of direct sun can make a difference. In very hot areas, some gardeners even use light cloth to soften the sun. Not to block it completely, but to reduce stress. In cooler climates, the situation changes. If your spring stays mild and your summer never becomes very hot, too much deep shade can slow growth more than needed. The soil may stay cool for a long time. Lettuce may take extra weeks to mature. In that case, a spot with morning sun and afternoon shade often works well. Morning light warms the soil gently. Afternoon shade protects from any strong heat. Season also matters. Early in spring, when temperatures are low, a bit more sun can help young plants get started. As the season warms, shifting to a slightly shadier spot can extend the harvest. There is no single perfect formula. But the guiding idea stays the same. Balance light with temperature. When growing lettuce in shade, there is one common mistake that appears again and again. It comes from kindness. Many gardeners water shaded plants as often as sunny ones. We assume that if a plant is growing slowly, it must need more water. But shade keeps soil moist longer. The sun is not pulling water out as quickly. When soil stays wet for too long, roots cannot breathe well. The leaves may look pale. Growth may stall. Sometimes the base of the plant feels soft. Before watering, it helps to gently touch the soil. Just press your finger into the top inch. If it still feels damp, it likely does not need more. More care is not always better care. Sometimes patience is the best support. If most of your garden is shaded, that does not limit you as much as you may think. Lettuce is not alone in liking cooler conditions. Spinach behaves in a similar way. Arugula often stays tender longer in light shade. Even on a small patio or balcony, containers can be placed where they receive soft morning light and gentle afternoon shade. Containers are easier to move than garden beds. A small shift of a few feet can change the light pattern. For those who prefer less bending, containers raised on a sturdy table can reduce strain on the back. Light tasks, steady observation, and occasional harvesting are enough. You do not need a large yard. You do not need constant attention. You need a spot with balanced light and the patience to watch how plants respond. If you have a shaded corner in your yard, or a balcony that only gets a few hours of light, I would be curious to hear about it. How many hours of sun does it receive? What have you tried growing there? Did anything surprise you? Sharing small observations helps all of us see patterns more clearly. Gardening is often quiet work, but learning can still be shared. As we come to the end of this reflection, the main lesson is simple. Lettuce does not need intense sun. It needs balance. It needs comfort more than speed. When we reduce stress on the plant, we extend its life. When we stop forcing fast growth, we often receive better flavor and a longer harvest. If you have been worried that your garden is too shady, perhaps this is an invitation to look again. Not with frustration, but with curiosity. Try a small patch. Watch how it behaves over weeks, not days. Notice the color. Notice the taste. Notice how long you can keep picking. Sometimes the quietest corner of the yard teaches the clearest lesson. In gardening, as in many parts of life, doing less can bring more steady results. Do less. Get more.